I've been in Tacoma since 1963. I'm involved in the community, and I'm heavily involved with making sure this center stays a beautiful center and the artwork is displayed the way we would like to see it displayed.
I was born in this community, in this state, in this city. In fact, a couple of blocks away from the People Center, and my parents have been very active in the community. And since I was born and raised there and attended school all the way from K-12, I've been in the community a long time. I've grown up learning how to give back to the community once you've left, gone away, and come back.
Well, when the community center first started, I was working for the city of Tacoma, the Model Cities program, and the center, which is now called People Center, used to be the Malcolm X Center. And it was a center there for the kids to have activities, but very few activities. On Friday evenings, I would host a dance for the students in the community. I was there when we dug the first dirt for People Center. That was the landmark for the beginning of the People Center. And the community rallied around changing the name from Malcolm X to it became the People Center. And we had a board. We wanted to make sure that the community board was there that made sure that the needs of this new facility was going to be something that remained in the community for a long time to come. So that was my beginning involvement with the People Center, and I'm proud of where it's at right now, and we want to make sure it stays and remain a community facility.
My parents were involved in the initial struggle to get activities for us as young kids growing up in the, community. My brothers played ball at the People Center after I had left and came back and realized that this is a grassroots place. This is where my folks started out at. Maybe I should be involved in doing something to help that. So I became involved with volunteering, and then all of a sudden they closed the swimming pool down, and a group of people had gotten active in saying, no, we want that back in the community. And I thought, this is a good time to fight. So I got involved, and it's been 10 years. We worked on trying to get some things for the center. We did manage through a long, hard-fought battle to get the swimming pool, the funding for it, and we got that done and opened up in 2016. And as a result of that, Harriet and I became really concerned, and we met up with a group from the city that decided we wanted some artwork there. We wanted to tell about the history of the center and how could we best do that.
City of Tacoma, in its artist roster, only have one artist of color, and that created problems for this place, right? Because how can we tell the story of Hilltop without connecting, that rich cultural diversity and heritage of the neighborhood to the project? Due to the advocacy of the steering committee at People's Community Center, who was absolutely passionate about making sure that neighborhood connections, that cultural diversity and equity was represented in not just the visuals of the mural, but how it was taking place. We decided to turn this mural, which would have been a singular commission for one artist, into an entire training program that would pay and support artists to develop the skills to translate their work onto the mural scale. That was super exciting, because taking artists who are just draw with pencils and and who paint on canvases, and I'm drilling them about painting 8 by 4 foot pieces in 20 minutes, and we took everybody outside of their comfort zone to really collaborate deeply. But what you saw, even within a few days, was the tremendous amount of skill and creativity and discipline that existed amongst these artists right here in the neighborhood. The People's Community Center became super interesting to me in coming to understand more about the significance of that place in terms of how, the African American community leaders really fought for a place for young people to gather and come together and have resources. Kind of unfortunate that in order to get more resources that they had to shed some of its history as a Malcolm X Center. And what's really cool to me to see today is a revisiting of that history, a revisiting of knowing the power of the civil rights movement and the fight for Black power and how all of these issues connect to the history of a community that has been displaced over and over again. That this community center can be both a historical and cultural anchor to people's sense of home.
I want you to meet Mr. Joyce. He painted the original Malcolm X Center that was here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The power of that history and this different intergenerational effort to connect young people to their culture. That shows up in the mural through different images of old Black-owned businesses that started in the neighborhood, through different representations of different points in the history, real struggles that people had. There were all these sensationalized stories about Hilltop from outsiders. But when you contrast that up against, the everyday photos that people took on Polaroid camera and just the play and the joy that neighbors had to celebrate and come together, you start to see a fuller picture of the history. You start to see a perspective that shows what insiders of the community have really valued and cherished over time. And it was actually pretty fun to be able to just take people's, family photographs and collage those into this design. And you see this kind of interweaving of personal histories.
My grandparents came to Tacoma in the 40s, lived in Shawashan for a while, and were one of the first Black families to move to the Hilltop.
I think people have been really excited, especially, we were able to surprise a lot of people with images in the mural. And one of the standouts for me is the portrait of Miss LaVersa Sullivan, who started the Intel Computer Clubhouse in the neighborhood. Her legacy is so huge and so deep in terms of how she has empowered folks. Her portrait in that mural, just seeing her face gleaming, her joy, I know that has, been a huge inspiration for so many people. And in the dedication, some people who knew her and had no idea that she was going to be represented there, they were really blown away. There's a lot of people too in the mural who are not people who have really big names, but they're just kind of more the everyday heroes from the neighborhood. Those people are represented there as well. We wanted to put the moms and cousins, the basketball players, and just the everyday kids who are having a good time. So I know there's folks in there who had no idea and maybe wouldn't have expected, to have a mural dedicated to them. But we understand that it takes a village, it takes a village to create a community. For me, it just really was so important to figure out how can we get these resources to come full circle. Another part of that was figuring out what the experience would be for the folks who are coming into the community center. How do we make sure that the folks who are coming in here, many of which are newcomers to the neighborhood, understand the deep heritage that is a part of this space? So we did a call to artists, prioritizing looking for artists of color, and artists who had a particular connection to the neighborhood. What was really exciting is just the incredible contributions from artists that tell so many different interwoven stories throughout the space. I think it's probably the best art show around town, and definitely my favorite part of the city's art collection is the collection of paintings and photographs and sculptures that exist on the walls inside the People's Community Center.
I think we did a very good job as the beginning of launching this, and I think it says a lot that each community has a history, each community has a story to tell, and I think art is a part of telling that story.
Kevin Miller. I'm a poet, writer of poetry. I write, I would guess, poems about people and place. We're in Point Defiance Park, and I chose this place because I spend every morning here for at least an hour walking with a scout and sometimes by myself. The trails are an incredible getaway, wildlife and owls and quiet. It is a wonderful opportunity just to have, you know, the wilds within a city, and you can really feel away here. She's a pretty good companion for me. I think I am attuned to an animal's sensitivities. I mean, she's taught me a lot about listening, about watching, about just being able to go and to continue to go at her pace. So, and she hears things and sees things that, or smells things that I never do, and she tells me, you know, where they are. Sound is probably, I think, the most important part of making the music of the language, or helping the language musically. The sound of crows, the sound of ravens. I mean, there are ravens in this park that have an amazing variety of sounds. And so it keeps me quiet so that I'm listening, so I'm paying attention. And it also reminds me that we are in somebody else's habitat. It allows me to just exist without having to have pressure about writing. There's something about, you're always writing even when you're not writing. And for me, it's this non-writing time, not physically writing, that you take things in, you let things settle, you can hear the sound of language because there is no other sound. So it's a non-pressure kind of time that is really an important part of the process.
My name is Ronnie Sheldon. I'm an artist in residence with the city of Tacoma, working on a community engagement piece around homelessness. The project I've been working here in Tacoma is called In Our Backyard, and that's a project that tries to think of Tacoma as a whole, as a community, as the backyard of everyone.
Hello, my name is Marquise Orlando Harvey. I'm originally from Cuba, but I'm here living.
The videos were called Conversations in Our Backyard, and were basically conversations or mutual interviews between people with and without experience of homelessness that invited each other to their backyard to talk about homelessness.
I've always had a place to stay all the time. I've never been homeless before. But
as an artist in residence, my job was to try to immerse myself in the city of Tacoma. I'm also not from here, I don't live here, so it included me coming in here, learning as much as I could about the community, about policy issues, about how the community thinks of itself, and find ways to partner with different organizations and different elements and different people from city staff and other community members, and try to create a project that will address the issue of homelessness through art. I'm very passionate about using art or utilizing art as a mean for social change and for creating a dialogue and conversation.
To have more conversation on a neighborhood level, on a city level, to eliminate those stigmas and barriers that keep people really far from each other.
The performance was a mix of an enactment of a story called Room for Rent that deals with stereotypes and seeing the other as different than you, and try to kind of deal with more pluralistic way to look at reality and more acceptance. And personal content and original content of the participants, kind of expressing different issues or struggles from their own lives, experiencing homelessness and addictions and other challenges.
I grew up in a tough neighborhood of California, and I think homelessness is more tougher than anything.
One powerful aspect of art for social change, the way I see it, is, and that I felt through this project, is also having conversation as an integral part of it, and then to see how in every event, since the community that gathers in this event is different themes come up. It reflects the fact that the issues that come up are genuine and comes from the community. So if you think about it in a larger perspective of Tacoma as a community, how important it is that we would create art and projects with the community itself to actually see what comes up and what are the main issues that we're actually dealing with.
I wanted to ask you, Kevin, what do you think the causes for homelessness are?
I think art is also another basic thing about it, is like it's a way of expression, and usually it's also kind of a privilege to be able to create art financially and education-wise, and to think that you deserve and that you can express yourself just for the sake of expression. And I think shifting it a little bit and making it something that is available to diverse groups that are usually not given the opportunities is a political shift of itself. Part of the work is even justice, having people watching a performance made by, determined by, performed by people who are experiencing homelessness, that are determining the agenda of the day instead of the other way around like it is usually. So.
My style of music is like, it's inspirational, and what I'm focused on now is creating theme music for visionaries. So if you're writing, if you're cooking, if you are an athlete, I want to make music that you can listen to while you're creating. I love John Mayer. I love his sound. Stevie Wonder, of course. I love a Tribe Called Quest. And a lot of times it ends up sounding like a mixture of those three. I steal a lot of the melodies that I've heard from them over and over, and they end up coming out in my music, and I'm like, wow, this sounds familiar. And then I'll play one of my favorite records, I'm like, oh, okay, so you can't do that. You gotta make it your own. My mom is Crystal Merton. She's a phenomenal songwriter, singer. She sang with an artist named Andre Crouch for, I think, a little over 30 years. She got her first record deal when she was 19, wrote the majority of the songs on her record, and she was touring from the age of 19, 20 until she got pregnant with me. She was still touring once she had me, but she had been essentially a professional musician her whole life. And so She gave me, my dad can sing a little bit as well. I don't want to leave him out, but my mom definitely gave me the gift that I have as far as being able to hear melodies, being able to synchronize with music that I'm listening to and find a story in there that I can tell. The first song that I had published was an artist named Devin the Dude. He's a rapper from Houston, Texas. He was working with my cousin and they were putting together some music, some production for his album. And my cousin was telling him about me, letting him know, hey, you know, he can sing really well, you should hear some of his stuff. He played one of my records, a record titled Your Kind of Love. He calls me and he's like, hey, I want to put that on my album. We negotiated and I got paid handsomely. The song was on his record and he still to this day tells me that's one of his favorite records, and that was 10 years ago. So it made me proud on two different notes. Getting paid is great, and then also the emotional currency that someone else feels what you express and they love it enough to where they would want to express it themselves. Yeah, it felt great, still does. There was about 4 years where I was addicted to opiates. I was really at a point where any day, I was unknowingly attempting to commit suicide because the things I was doing, I was abusing the drugs so badly that I was unconscious of what was going on around me. And the fact that I made it out, that I have 2.5 years sober now, I've grown so much as a person. I couldn't help but grow as a song artist, as a writer. There's so much more for me to talk about. There's so much more purpose in my lyrics. You're able to survive the worst moments in your life. You gotta be able to share them. You gotta share them. And music is a powerful way to share them.
I like to think of my music like a soundtrack for a movie, the movie being my life or what's going on in the world. My grandma listened to country music. I didn't really appreciate it until I was older. I grew up listening to a lot of like gospel and R&B and soulful music. I wasn't allowed to listen to rap until I was older, so like I was kind of late on that, but I fell in love with it. That kind of really influenced a lot of what I do today. Music was everywhere. It was a part of life. My parents listened to it when we were going through good times, when we were going through bad times. I just learned how to use it as an escape or use it as therapy. And I knew it could be a vehicle to get me to my dreams as well. For me, making a new song is just about finding a new story to tell. It's not like poetry. Like, you need an idea or something to spark a song. It could be a lyric, it could be a line, and then I'll usually come up with like a melody or the words in my head or sing them out loud, because I feel like if you write good music a cappella, then you can make a great song. If your song doesn't sound good by itself, then it's not really a great song. So I try to start without music and then find chords or find a cool melody to go along with it, or a cool bass line and some cool drums. I'm always just looking for inspiration though, like anywhere I can find it. It's hard to get good ideas on purpose unless you're like open to them and you're ready to receive them. You got your hands open and you can grab those ideas out of the air and make something cool. The moment that impacted me the most was probably doing the Tacoma show. Because I remember being in this room, looking out these windows at night, performing by myself and singing and pretending I was on stage at the Tacoma Dome. And it was like such a, like, it felt pointless sometimes, because I'm like, there's no way that I'll end up in there anytime soon. Like, it's impossible. Fast forward a year and I'm on this stage in front of 10,000 people and I'm singing my songs. A lot of these people have no idea who I am, but they're connecting with me. And I get to share my story. I get to tell them how I got here. I get to tell them about how the whole Nicki Minaj thing happened, and tell all these people that if I can do this and if I can be on this stage, then you can do even more, because I know where I came from and I know that I was not the most talented. I know I was not the best singer. I didn't have the most money. I didn't have connections or relationships like that. It was just I had a dream and I wanted to achieve it. If I can do it with the bare minimum, then you guys can do so much more. And that's what I want for my city, and that's what I want for the people around me in my community, is to know that this isn't it. All you got to do is go for it. it's so possible. The thing that keeps me here is, for one, is where I'm from and the people that are here. The people that I grew up with, the people that are coming up under me, the people that have mentored me, the people that I love, and the people that made me who I am are here. Figure out who influences you, and then you go dig deeper and find out who influenced them. Sometimes the structure can be faulty, but the people are what make it what it is. You gave me the tools to get to where I'm trying to get to, and I'm gonna pass those same tools on. I'm here because I want it to be what it could be. I'm here because I see the potential and I see how amazing it is already. I've had a chance to travel around the country and see other places and spend time in other places. And I see what advantages we have, and I see the kind of people that we make. I don't believe that, it's true that the best grapes come from the worst dirt. And I feel like Tacoma is a clean slate. It's like a clean canvas. And there are people here, there are resources here. It's just like connecting the people and the artists and the resources and make it so that we can all help each other and work together to be what we could be.
How long have we known each other?
I first met you in 2009. I was doing a recording session with some other producers from Tacoma. That was my first time like being in a studio that had like real equipment, like a booth and like a real legit microphone.
Right.
Yeah, I remember coming in there at night and you seemed like you were not really happy to be there and you were just ready to go. So it was like, let's just
I had probably been there all day.
Yeah, yep.
Real excited, real hungry, real tired. And like, all right, great, we got another group of real exciting artists coming in. And
exciting local artists. Yeah.
Yay.
All the way from Tacoma.
Yeah, this is their big studio debut.
Right.
Yeah.
Happy for them.
I get to be the one to tell them that they're too loud in the microphone.
Yes. And we had no, like I had no clue what I was doing back then. And I thought, what's crazy is how much I thought I knew, because I had done music in my room for so long. That like, I'm gonna be prepared, I'm gonna go in here and like make something magical happen. And I was just a songwriter at that time. I wasn't even like the artist. I was there as support for somebody else. So I kind of it was cool because I got to kind of sit back and see how things worked and see how terrible we were. But it wasn't me, I didn't have to really do much, so yeah.
Yeah, I was actually worn out with being locked in a studio, being in it's a creative space, but it was more of like, I wasn't connecting with people.
Right.
I wasn't connecting with the outside world. I was only connecting with other studio people.
Right.
And by studio people, I just mean people that were trying to make a product.
Yeah.
Like being in a factory.
Yeah.
It was wearing me out. So then every time somebody would come in, I'd hear the same thing over and over. Man, this is it.
This is the one.
This is the one.
Hit. Let's go.
And then when they get excited about something, especially when they get excited about something that you're doing, they're like, hey man, when we make it, we're gonna take you with us. But then there would also be people who are super talented, and they're usually super humble.
Right.
And I remember that about you. You were not, it wasn't an insecure thing, but it was like, I wanna do what I'm doing better.
Right.
I have not arrived. I am not coming here to bless this area. I wanna do what I'm doing better.
Do you have like a place where you keep like all your ideas and inventions?
Everywhere.
Right.
I have notepads everywhere. I use my phone. I have another phone that's just full of ideas.
Right.
Because it'll pass.
Yes, it will.
You'll have an idea. There's probably been 5,000 times in my life where I've been on a bus, where I've been in a car, where I've been in a meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll ooh, okay, that's a good little groove. Or man, I don't know, I'm just saying something and I'm like, I should write that down. No, I'll remember it.
I remember it.
I'm very smart.
Right, or have a dream, you wake up in the morning like, oh yeah,
yeah.
I should get up and write it down. No, this
you finally get a chance to go do it and
it's gone.
And that's a seed that has to be planted. It has to be purposefully planted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if you don't purposely plant them, somebody else is gonna put their ideas in there.
Right.
You know?
Right.
That's why I know with you don't listen to a lot of other people's music when you're in the creative process.
I was like, yeah.
Because your music is influenced by others that you liked, but it's your own music. It's not like, oh, that sounds like, you know, Coldplay, or that sounds like Kanye. No, it's like, this is Will Jordan's music.
Thank you.
I mean, the entire process, the writing, the vocals, the sounds, the way that the sounds are blending.
Wow.
You might go over ideas with others, but it's like, this is my time to tap in. What is that process like for you? Is it very personal?
I think it's more of a habit thing than anything. Like it's just like I know that when I'm by myself, I can scream as loud as I need to, or be as out of tune or off, or have the worst ideas and fix them. A lot of the reasons I didn't like making music in front of other people was because everything somebody does in the studio has an effect on your work. So if you're in there working on a part or working on a beat, and somebody's sitting on the couch and they take out their phone and start, it's like that affects everything, because you're like, okay, wait, what happened? Why aren't they interested in what I'm doing? Like what I'm doing should be so captivating.
Or if what you're doing is something you're just trying something out.
Right.
You're like, ooh, I love that. That's great. Do that. And you're like, no, I'm not even. No. That was an accident.
Yeah, don't
judge that.
That's
yet.
not the thing.
That's not even the thing yet.
Right.
I'm just seeing what sound I want to use.
Right.
And I'll pick that sound.
Do that one.
No.
That was a good one.
There's 5,000 sounds on this keyboard. We can't do this every time.
Right. And then I got to explain to you why this doesn't work, or why these notes clash, or like the biggest one for me is like, if I'm working on something and somebody gets up and leaves the room while I'm working, I'm like, wait, what's
I did
wrong?
This, yeah.
Yeah, what did I do that made them want to
me.
leave? Yeah, like what is going on? And that's just like which is the thing I worked on and I'm getting better at, but that was a lot of the reason why like I like to create alone. There's so much music out there, and there's so many different artists and people that are doing like really amazing things. And so for me, I guess the way that I try to set myself apart is by putting as much of my fingerprint or imprint, or I don't know, myself into the music as I can. And like the more people that are in there giving ideas, the more it kind of loses the me, which sounds super narcissistic, but it's just in these early stages as I'm making this new music and presenting myself to the world, I want them to have a really clear view of who I am. And then as I get further and grow more, then more people come into the fold and like add things and contribute things. But it's just because for a long time I wasn't allowed to do things. So now like I finally have the chance to make stuff, and to like, it's important to me to be able to like really shape and design what I want people to hear and how I want them to hear it.
You want your thought to be expressed
Exactly.
Before it turns. What's that game? I think it's called Telephone, where you whisper in somebody's ear, and then by the time it gets to 6 different people,
my goodness,
it's like, well, how did you hear that?
That's
not what I said.
That's not what.
And that happens so much. I think more so in the music business than any other art field, where you have an idea, and say you send it to someone to mix it, you send it to someone to put an instrument on it, or you give it to a friend and say, hey, whatever you feel, just do it. And it turns into a different thought. Sometimes it can be better. Sometimes like, wow, I didn't even hear that. But a lot of times it's like, that's not my vision.
I think I just had like traumatic experiences with losing control over, like I took it for granted for a while, because in the early days at Platinum Rain, I was able to just do what I want and make what I want. And then when we got into like the more industry label side of stuff, then it went from me making a song, me writing the song, recording the song, mixing the song, and then it being done, to, okay, now I'm going to write the concept, make this beat, then give it to this producer. They're going to take it and reproduce it. Then they're going to play it for the A&R. The A&R is going to give his opinion. Then they're going to change it. Then they're going to send it to the songwriters and the producers, and they're going to add what they like, then change it. Then it's going to come back to me, and then I have to make this make sense. And then we go through the same cycle again and again and again. And
some of those people in that cycle are not music people.
Have no business being in the
cycle.
cycle.
They're telling you what they think it should have, and I don't know what it is. It's missing something.
And that was what used to drive me crazy. But it also, it pushed me to grow as an artist, because they would give you these vague critiques like, your verse could be a little more direct. I want this song to be less this and less that, and a little more brightness, and a little more character to it. And I'm like, okay, but that could mean so many different things. And I learned that that was the price you had to pay, was you give up creative control of what you're doing, from your music videos, to the writing, to the album art, to the pictures, to the outfits that you're wearing. And I was like, I can't do this, which is what brought me back to Tacoma, to do it from scratch, and to do it with the people that I started with, and to do it with people I loved and people that cared about my art.
What is your ideal creative setting? Is it at home? Is it in the studio? Is it when do you feel like, wow, like this is the space I need to be in all the time?
I think there's 2 times. The songs that have changed my life all happen in the car. And it's funny because it all came kind of like out of a messed up situation. I had this truck back when I was younger, and like I had this crazy sound system and some TVs. And so my car got broken into, and they took everything out the car. And so for a while, I I didn't have a sound system, right? Actually, I never.
You were the radio. Huh?
Yeah, so like I had to drive around with no music, but it helped me to come up with ideas and to sing and to practice in the car to entertain myself. So Pretty Girls was a song that we had done that got placed. Fly happened, and just I wrote Fly driving around the car, coming up with ideas. I wrote a song called Cheat from driving around in the car after I got in an argument and coming up with ideas. And all those songs went on to like be big records for me. So there, and then when it comes to production, just being in the studio in the middle of the night, like taking a nap at 9 o'clock and waking up at 2 in the morning, and you can
fresh, yeah.
Yeah, and you're
everybody
looking out
else
over the
is
city.
asleep.
Everybody's asleep.
Everybody else
gone.
is out, and
right.
your brain is on, and
Yeah.
it's like that one light. Yeah, yeah.
That's when I convinced myself that I'm a superhero and that this music is going to save the world, or
Absolutely.
at least inspire somebody else to save the world. And it's a cool time of night. It's just quiet, but you can see the lights out in the streets, especially where the studio is downtown. You can overlook the city and see the planes coming and going and all that stuff. Like that really.
You've written, you've performed. If you could express how it feels when you see people in real time responding to your music.
It's like growing up and like having a poster of like somebody you are just infatuated with or in love with, and they're just on your wall every day, and you like you're praying like one day I'll meet you, and one day I'll get to shake your hand or say hello.
Having full conversation with a poster.
Yeah, and then like 10 years goes by, and now you're like with this person. You guys like married, and it's like, wow, I never thought. Like I hoped that one day we would connect, but I never knew how or if it would happen. You spend so much time like working alone and like beating yourself up and getting critiqued, and then going through the label stuff, and then everything is like about business and numbers and metrics and stuff that you don't even want to even deal with. It's like there's so many different obstacles that you go through. So like it's sometimes it's hard to hang on to that dream or hang on to that hope. So to get to this point and to get to this age and to like see that, okay, wow, I remember 10 years ago where I was, and I see where I am now, and then it also makes you excited because there's no telling what could happen in the future. I think one of the most amazing things about music, or about being a creative in any whatever medium that you create in, is that any day your whole life can change. Like you never know what phone call you're going to get.
You create that thing, or
email.
something you created years ago. Somebody's like, hey, you remember that song you wrote or that picture you painted?
Exactly. So
yeah, everybody loves that, and your whole life's about to change.
All right, man. Thank
Sir,
you. Yeah.
It's always a pleasure.
Likewise.
It's always good to be able to sit and talk with you.
Yep.
And be able to talk about music and art and all that stuff.
Right. And I'm
excited for the future, man.